And tonight we're continuing our logical fallacy series. Tonight we're going to be talking about two logical fallacies. One is the appeal to emotion, and the other one is going to be the anecdotal fallacy. When you were younger and your parents said, well, you got to finish your broccoli because there's somebody over in China that hasn't got a thing to eat. So if you don't eat this, then you're just making another child starve. Well, that's basically appealing to the emotion, because you're trying to put an emotional attachment to whatever it is you're doing or not doing in this case. And the other one there is the anecdotal fallacy. It's a storytelling based on a personal experience. Let's say I have a grandfather and he had birthday cake every day. He lived to be 90 years old. So me eating birthday cake is not going to hurt me, and I'm not going to get diabetes or whatever, because he never got diabetes from eating all that birthday cake all the time. So that's another one of those things there. So we're going to get the timer started. That's just to preface this a little bit. And normally we'd have our guests start out with our question, but for our discussion, but tonight we're going to let her off the hook, and we're going to start with Connie, and there's our timer right here.
I can say something at the end really quick.
Sure, okay. And we'll start the timer now, and Connie, your thoughts?
Well, the appeal to emotion is a red herring. You're trying to manipulate an emotional response in place of a valid or compelling argument.
Right.
You're going to burn in hell would be the religious example, and it's also related to wishful thinking. Damn it.
What happened?
What happened to me? I don't know. I was confused here.
That's all right.
Distinction between relevant and fallacious appeals to emotion is based on the distinction between arguments that aim to motivate us to action and those which intend to convince us to believe in something.
Right.
So, yeah, if you had to dumb this down to what it is for, religion, it's just...
well, in this case, sometimes it appeals to fear. You said fear. Sometimes hatred, and then pride.
Emotions, yeah.
Yes, and it's a logically coherent argument against the inspire emotion, or to have the emotional aspect.
Right.
But the fallacy occurs when the emotion is used instead of a logical argument.
Fear, envy, hatred, pity, pride, etc.
Right.
So you don't have anything other than, like, if you don't buy this car, people are going to hate you. They're going to think you're lame.
Right.
It's like,
yeah. If you don't buy the latest.
Yeah.
If you don't buy the latest toy, all your friends are are not gonna like you anymore.
Right.
That's appealing to emotion, because you're appealing to their fear of being outcast by their friends.
Right, and being part of the group, which is actually quite intrinsic to the human experience. You want to be a part of the tribe, because exclusion usually means death. It means, you're not going to reproduce. You're not going to.
Yeah, or sometimes socially death. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Then I guess that's all I have to say about this right now.
Okay. Well, what about? Let's move on to the anecdotal. The example of the eating the birthday cake and everything there. That's basically getting people to believe someone's testimony, as opposed to understanding the complex data and variation across the continuum. Basically,
yes,
it's like saying there's other reasons why you should believe this. I mean, it's because this happened to me, so this should happen to you, or don't have to worry about me because this happened to my grandfather, father, or my brother, friend, or whatever.
Right. Well, personal testimony, I mean, that's what every single, Sunday night or Saturday night church service is based on. It's testimonial night. Jesus
God healed me.
Jesus, yeah. I read this book, I read this thing, and all of a sudden I had an illumination, and Jesus told me that this is what's real. I mean, I'm all about this one thing. I mean, that was the thing that I thought really solidified my testimony as a Christian when I was a Christian.
Right.
was personal experience. Personal experience is also why I still have a very vivid memory of an experience with the Ouija board, which I made a video about on my channel, and it was extremely violent, and it would have been a movie, but I have to accept now that it was my mind's way of coping with an event that I just couldn't recognize or reconcile.
Right.
So yeah, your anecdotal is only as valid as people want to believe your personal testimony.
Right.
Because we cannot share that. It's subjective.
Yes. It is.
So,
It is subjective in that instance.
And that's what I have to say about it.
Okay, Joe, your thoughts?
I'm going to talk about the anecdotal fallacy with an anecdote. At my job,
The hell you say?
we sometimes have to come up with approaches to challenging behaviors from our clients, and when we talk about it, we say, well, the behavior is this, and they always do that. And then my boss, who is a therapist, interjects, now, we can't say they always do it unless we can show they always do it.
Right.
So then we have to start tracking the behavior on a chart. And after a month or two of tracking, we look at the data and we realize, oh, the behavior only happens like 2 or 3 times a month. So it doesn't happen all the time. It's not always happening.
Right.
So that's an example of how recording data almost always trumps perception and personal experience.
Right.
Reading about the anecdotal fallacy kind of reminds me of something that Adam Savage from the Mythbusters once said. He said, remember, kids, the only difference between screwing around and science is writing it down.
That's very true. That's very true.
Yes.
Great.
And as for the other fallacy, I mean, you guys gave great examples. The one example that came to my mind was the arguments before the Iraq War, where they used an appeal to fear, and they were like, it'll be too late when there's a mushroom cloud over Washington, D.C., and everybody. I actually knew people who were worried about that, who were like, oh my God, we have to do something. And even though the country that we were worried about had no nuclear weapons or even an air force, so to speak. So.
Yeah, I was like, well, how are they going to get it here? Ship it to us Federal Express? I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Ding dong! Nuclear bomb here for you.
I yield to our guest.
Maribel, you have the last 45 seconds.
Oh my goodness, 45 seconds. How can I shorten this down? First and foremost, I don't believe in Jesus Christ. I did once upon a time, I don't now.
Okay.
And, that's a result of not seeing things that people were talking about. I mean, even recently, a place that I was working at, there was a woman who was convinced and was trying to convince me that Jesus spoke to her. He whispered in her ear. He whispered things to her.
Oh.
And a buddy of mine, Rich Wood, said, well, I think Jesus spoke to the son of Sam as well. So that should tell you where people's heads are at when it comes to certain things. I mean, I could respect what people want to believe in.
Right.
What I don't respect is when they try to enforce that belief on me and say, well, you have to believe in this because I believe in it.
Right. That's
I
basically
grew up with that experience, and guess what? It didn't do anything for me.
right.
What I believe in for me works, and it's my own personal thing, and I don't have to share it with anybody because it's mine.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a perfect example of anecdotal logical fallacy right there. Because Jesus spoke to me. I'm surprised you didn't have Jesus speak to you, and shit like that. So, but anyway.
Bravo.
You can't hear Jesus because you're not letting him into your heart.
Right.
Shut the heck up.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.